The first experience was I was taking a nap and I could hear, it sounded like somebody walking down the hall and stopping at the door frame, and I had this feeling that I was being watched.
He just slowly turned his head towards me, gave me that look that you knew, how dare you, and kind of like got up and just vanished into the air. And I'll never forget that.
That you're still there.
Family traits. Sometimes you get height, sometimes you get dark hair. And there are those who believe that sometimes you get supernatural ability. Hello, I'm Lawrence Chow. Today on Ghostly Encounters, we'll look at how a family history of openness to the supernatural can make someone more receptive to the possibility of seeing ghosts. Belief in spiritual contact is common to any number of religions and cultures. These beliefs help many to find meaning in otherwise inexplicable situations. And families that embrace these beliefs often pass them on to the next generation. Jay Wheatley's spiritual beliefs comforted her when she moved into a haunted apartment. But more profoundly, her beliefs have helped her deal with the early loss of her mother.
I lost my mom in a car accident when I was 16. It was my request that we take some of the ashes and we put them in a burial plot so I could have some place to visit. I just really felt like I needed a place to go to talk to her. I know with my experience, I had this overwhelming, feeling that I didn't know if she was okay, and that was just consuming me. Is she okay? Is she in a safe place? Is she all right? And I didn't know that, and that scared me, that she wasn't taken care of or that she was alone. To me, the idea that you live on, or your spirit lives on, is just kind of, I guess, somewhat inherent with my upbringing. I'm half Scottish and I'm half Ojibwe. My Scottish side, I think, is very superstitious, and my Ojibwe side, it is a common belief that after we die, that a spirit horse comes to take us, to bring us on our journey into the afterlife. I do believe that we are going on another journey and we're going somewhere else. We're not dying and just gone. My great-grandmother was a white witch. My father had told me stories about her when I was growing up. She had really great power, so when she would tell people not to go somewhere or not to do something, people wouldn't even question her because they believed that what she was saying would happen or would come true. Our community is on an island, and every so many years, it's not on a certain date and it doesn't happen all the time, but there's a light that goes across the island. And there are people on the island that believe that's my grandmother's spirit going across the island. In September of 2000, I moved into a house. It was actually an old house, 80 years old. I moved in with my boyfriend, and I started hearing noises. I'm a bit of a napper. I enjoy my afternoon naps when I can take them. And a couple times when I took naps, I felt like I was being watched. It sounded like there was somebody in the apartment. And then this feeling just started getting stronger and stronger. I would be in my bed, I'd either just be dozing off or actually asleep, and awake to the feeling like I'm being watched. And most often when you feel like you're being watched, you normally are being watched. It sounded like somebody walking down the hall and stopping at the door frame. there's a part of me that doesn't even want to look at the doorway because I'm afraid I'm going to see something at the doorway. You're in bed feeling like, oh my God, there's someone in the house with me. What do I do? Physically, there's nobody there. And I said to my boyfriend, I said, I don't know why. I said, but I think there's more than one ghost. It feels like there's two of them there, and I think there's a man and a woman. And the man's presence is very strong. It's like they're an older couple. I can't see them. I don't know what they're wearing, but there's a man and there's a woman behind him. I could hear them walk down the hall and stop at the bedroom. I almost felt paralyzed in bed because I wanted to get out of bed. I wanted to get out the room, but I thought if they're there and they're in the door frame, does that mean I'm going to walk through them? It must have happened, I don't know, 6, 8 times where like they were in the room with me. My mom is still here. My mom is still with me, I believe. Her spirit is strong. I definitely feel her spirit. And at one point, I actually, I called my mom. I don't know that she had any pull with the situation or she could have done anything, but eventually what I did is I spoke with the ghosts and I told them who I was and that I was now living in this house and that I wasn't there to cause them any harm and that I would appreciate it if they would stop coming in the room because they were kind of scaring me. And after I had this talk with them, they stopped coming in the room. I could hear them in the hall, sometimes I could hear them in the living room, in the kitchen, very faintly, but they just kind of stopped. This apartment, I actually, I got through a friend of a friend. My friends, Shaman Zoe, told me that Annette had a place that she was leaving, and they asked me how the apartment was, and my friend Shaman said to me, have you had any problems with ghosts? And my jaw just about hit the floor, and I'm like, did you just say ghost, as in plural, more than one ghost? And she said, yes. And I looked at my boyfriend and I just like, I smacked his arm. I'm like, you see, I told you there was ghosts there. And I said, how did you know? And why didn't you tell me? And she said that Annette had talked about the ghost many times. She's like complained about her ghost. With her experience, she actually woke up and saw them. She was asleep and I guess got the feeling like there's somebody in the room and just sat up and she saw a man and a woman. She screamed, and when she screamed, they just vanished. She actually wound up doing the same thing that I did, and that she finally talked to them and they went away. One time I was sleeping and I was in a dead sleep. All of a sudden I woke up, and when I woke up, I mean, it was very abruptly. I just bolted, sat right up, eyes wide open. I felt as though there was somebody at the side of my bed. When I woke up so quickly, it's almost as though I startled whomever was there, and they got up and they went in the room. My heart is just racing, thinking, did this really happen? Am I still sleeping? And like, what's going on? I look down the hallway, and it's a very long hallway, and it's like I could see almost a black haze that just scooted down the hall and into the kitchen. I think it might have been a friend of mine. Just days before, I'd found out that a friend of mine had passed away. And I was upset when I heard it, and I was just thinking about him, for, I guess, a couple days. I don't know, maybe he knew that I was thinking of him, or maybe he wanted to come and see me, or he was watching me, and I think he was quite shocked that I woke up. I've had unusual experiences with my mom, and her spirit is strong. I definitely feel her spirit. I don't need to go to a cemetery to talk to my mom, because that's not where my mom is. My mom, you know, she's with me, and when I need her, she's there. And it's so ridiculous. At least now I think it's ridiculous for me to have ever gone there thinking that she'd be there. I mean, that's just not the kind of place my mom would hang out or be. You know, I can remember even going and bringing flowers there, or feeling like I needed to bring flowers, and there was always this voice in my head of my, you know, like my mom talking to me, going, "Why are you leaving flowers there? Like, why don't you take the flowers home with you and enjoy them?" And so now it's when I feel like I want to do something for my mom, I'll go out and I'll buy a big bouquet of flowers for me and enjoy them and think of my mom.
Jay shows a remarkable openness to what she considers a very active spiritual world. She is lucky to feel she has an ongoing relationship with her dead mother. She accepts it as a very real part of her life. This may be partly due to her family heritage. She's Scottish and Ojibwa, and both cultures are open to the supernatural. Jay's ghostly encounters show us that for believers, the living might have some control over spectral intruders. Jay's mother may have helped her find that control. Perhaps that's how Jay found the confidence to speak directly to the ghosts. She told them to leave her alone, and she believes they did.
It was around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I remember I had to grab something from the kitchen in the basement. And I'm just walking down, and I don't know why I did it. I never do it. I just turned to the right. Not too many feet away, there's a sofa that we have. And as I looked towards the sofa, there was a gentleman, at that time I didn't know who it was, sitting on the sofa in a black top hat and a black suit. You're in a different realm. You know you're there, but you're not there. I mean, somebody came up to me, and I never had these experiences. And I think, okay, this one's not dealing with a full deck.
Like Jay, Deborah Otto comes from a family background of supernatural beliefs. Deborah's close-knit Portuguese family helped prepare her for an active belief in the spiritual world. Yet when Deborah finally had the personal encounter she'd longed for, she was caught off guard. The event raised as many questions as it answered, but it also deepened her belief in God and in a spiritual universe.
The Portuguese people in general are into the unknown, the supernatural. We always heard stories about my aunts and my uncles who were always into spiritualism, and we were always fascinated, but myself as a child was very fascinated. And my mom would always tell some different stories, how she had out-of-body experience, and I used to think, wow, I wish I could get something like that. And she could tell you things that you've done without even being there, so she kind of had like a premonition. You were always cautious not to do something bad, because she could always tell when you did it, or she knew who did it. Like, you couldn't lie to her. I always used to be envious. Like, how come they get to see something, or how come they get to feel something, and I don't? And then as you grow up, and then it does happen to you, I'm kind of glad it did happen the way it did, because I don't think I would be able to understand it or know what to do as a kid. It was July. I'm not sure what day, but I just remember it being a beautiful summer day, and my whole family had gone to the conference at the church. And I decided I'm going to cook, because I love to cook, and I was going to have everything ready for when they came home. And I remember I had to grab something from the kitchen in the basement. So as I'm just walking down from one kitchen to the other kitchen, and as I go to turn, I just turn to the other side and go, oh! It's like you're in a room where you hear absolutely nothing. It's like hollow. And you're frozen, and you can't move. Just the two of you, and there's no one else. There's no one else in the world. It's just the two of you. And you're in that realm where you can't move, and he's just watching you. He gave me a look like somebody who's disgusted with somebody. Like, how dare I intrude in his space? I think that's what I remember the most, because it was like, how dare you come down here and disturb me? It's like I was bothering him for something he was about to do. It's like I really came into his territory, unwanted. And then once he vanished, then I was able to move. I was able to go, whew, is this for real? Did I just imagine this or what? And I walked to the kitchen and finished my stuff, and then I sat at the steps, and I just looked around. I looked at the windows to see, okay, is this a reflection? Is this my imagination? Did I really see this? I was actually trying to figure out if this was just something my eyes wanted to see or is really happening. And then it slowly hits you. It's like you get that initial shock, and then it slowly comes, oh my God, this was more than what you thought it was. The next day, at the exact time that I figured, I went to see if any shadows were coming through or any light was coming through, and it was just impossible. There was just no way. And then I had come to the realization, no, you actually saw this. And there's a reason, and so you might as well tell them. So that's when I told the family. My mother-in-law she automatically went, oh my God, this is not a good sign. Immediately the next day, we're like, remove the sofa. They didn't want the sofa in the house anymore. Then my mother-in-law would just pray in the rooms to make sure nothing would ever come back. I had no idea who it was. I absolutely had no idea, and that's why I wasn't scared. But once my brother-in-law told me it sounds like an undertaker, then I thought, oh, that's not good. And I thought, well, if I'm seeing it, it can't be for me. So I just thought like an angel of death. So it's given me a forewarning of something. And at that time, nobody even had an inkling that my father-in-law was dying from stomach cancer. We had no idea. Never showed any signs or symptoms whatsoever. He had a tough exterior, but a soft interior. What you see is what you get with him. Comes from South Africa with a very religious background. He was a minister here in Toronto who was transferred from South Africa to Toronto 30-some years ago. He would minister in Toronto in one of the churches in Scarborough on the suburbs. He used to build back in South Africa. He used to buy land and sell, buy land and sell, and build homes on them. He always lived the way that he taught us to live. Be straight, be honest. When he was diagnosed with cancer, I asked my cook. She deals with this kind of spiritualism, and she had a friend who was a doctor in this. I asked her, call her up and ask her, what does she think? Will he pass away from this, or is there any hope at the end of the tunnel? This lady in Portugal has no idea who my father-in-law is, never met him. We didn't send a picture, absolutely nothing. And she returned with a message saying he was a minister and he was supposed to die a year earlier. But through some divine intervention, he was spared a year. My father-in-law also built a church in Jamaica. And when he had gone to Jamaica, that same year that I saw that ghost, he was knifed in a bus by 3 guys. Going to the bank one day, banking the church's money. They cut his pouch and they cut his neck underneath the chin. He survived that one. They just took his money and left. But if you put them all together, you make the connections. Because this lady in Portugal who doesn't know my father-in-law says he was supposed to die a year earlier. I see the undertaker that year, and then by some intervention of grace, he gets a year extra, and then the year later he passes away.
Catholicism in Portugal is traditionally enriched by folk magic. Objects are often given spiritual significance. That's what happened with the old sofa, where Deborah saw what they figure was the undertaker's ghost. Thinking it could be a threat, her mother-in-law acted quickly to get the couch out of the house. And so, as with Jay, human intervention had a hand in eliminating an unwanted ghost. When the sofa was removed, so was the undertaker. He never came back. Deborah sought guidance from a medium that helped her finally make sense of the ghost she thinks foreshadowed her father-in-law's death. Because she grew up with her mother's premonitions, Deborah was clearly ready to have one of her own. Both Deborah and Jay were exposed from childhood to a belief in spirits, so they were ready for a glimpse. into another reality.
We rationalize it away, we try to find explanations for it, and I think when you stop doing that, you become a lot more accepting of what we don't know and what we feel, that kind of gut feeling or that intuition or sixth sense or whatever you want to call it. When you open that door and you invite it, it's surprising what you find.
I think if you don't believe in it, you're never going to see it. And if you do, eventually, you have to want it badly enough to be able to, and then I believe you would get it. That's just my perception.